Hey everybody, welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses. For now, it is just me, your friend, the Angry Canadian Robot. I will be joined by Kevin Lacey pretty soon. So we got a big, huge, packed show. Obviously, lots of things going on. But I think I probably need to start on a more somber note. Obviously, with the tragedy that happened in Humboldt. I know that all of us here, I think there's really no one in the hockey world that it hasn't touched in some way, shape, or form. I mean, for me, it's not, it's hard for me to explain, like, for me, like, I know my wife, she's been really affected by it because she's from a small town, much like the towns in most of the towns in Saskatchewan are these little towns of, a few thousand people, and hers is even smaller. So her sister played hockey and she was used to, taking the bus with her and stuff. And it's unfathomable for what happens. Obviously, our thoughts are with the people of Humboldt and the families and everyone there. And if there's any way that, you can help them out, then, I would ask that you do so. If not, just keep them in your thoughts. Joined by Mr. Kevin Lacey.
Yes, definitely. And one of the things regarding the Humboldt tragedy, thanks for having me on, by the way,
Yeah, of course.
is that this transcends sports. And I haven't really paid a lot of attention to like the major news outlets regarding this story and whatnot. But I did see a member of the Toronto Raptors basketball team wearing a Humboldt jersey before the game, either last night or the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that this isn't being treated as just a hockey story, because I mean, the fact is, if it was another one of the major professional sports in North America, it would be on the news all day, all the time. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, but I'm glad that people are aware of this. They're donating money. There's been a lot of positive things coming out of this horrible event.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that, because this is all about humanity. It's not about sports. So I'm glad that it has been seemingly far reaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it was obviously something that happened. We haven't been on, so I think, it'd be far be it for us not to at least mention it, I think. But obviously we don't want to, now that we've sucked the life out of the room. Kevin, the Barracuda are in the playoffs after I wrote them off. How much of a jerk am I?
Yeah, after you wrote them off.
I've written them off like months ago.
How many episodes of, well, not that I've done very many episodes of Barracuda After Dark, but we'll just say 100% of the episodes of Barracuda After Dark were me saying, oh, this team has no chance. This team has no chance. This team is trash. Well, this team is better, but they're still not going to the playoffs. Uh-oh, what is happening? This is, huh? Oh,
right. I
Like,
mean, don't get me wrong. I am pleasantly surprised, and obviously getting a little shot in the arm of talent, which, I mean, the Barracuda's been ravaged by the Sharks all year, so, and injuries as well. So to get some talent, with all due respect to some of the guys who plugged through the trenches all year, but obviously getting Chekovich and Chmelevski has really been helpful for this Barracuda squad to really get them. Help them out with that, getting the winning streak to get them into the playoffs. You're muted. You're still muted. All right.
Lovely. I just like spat it off on mute. That's wonderful.
That's okay.
What I was saying was, I mean, look at Shekovich, 9 points in 6 games. He has a point in every game since he's debuted. Chmelevski's got 3 goals. And I actually, of what I've seen of the two, I actually like Chmelevski more. And even though he doesn't have as many points, but he's had just as big of an impact on the team. It's been great for 2 late round picks here from just last year's draft to step in, overage picks at that, if I recall, and just step right in.
Yes.
Okay. And wow, what a difference. Nick Nollenberger on the broadcast the other night, or maybe it was last night even, said that Haluka and I'm trying to remember, I think it is Haluka and Shmolevsky have had instant chemistry as if they've been playing all season together. And I know that Adam Haluka, the last game that I went to, that was his best game of the season that I had seen playing with the youngin on his line.
Oh, Sleepy Mofo doesn't want the Cuda to get in the playoffs because it's going to mess up the ice at SAP. Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, okay, so the Barracuda are in. How far, I mean, because you've watched far more Barracuda than I have this season. How far do you think that this team can go? Or do you think that, would the worry now be that this is a team that's, that's used everything in the tank to get in and doesn't have much left? What do you feel from what you've seen?
I don't buy that because unless you're like John McCarthy, everybody on this roster has young legs. Like they should be able to go. And especially when it's in the AHL, the beginning, at least in this division, the Pacific Division, the beginning of the season, there's a lot of days off, and the end of the season, there's a lot of days off. So yeah, even though you go through the rigors of the season, there's fresh blood on the team, and they're still pretty well rested. And they beat Tucson the last game that they played, and in one of their best wins of the season, most complete victories of the season. And to my knowledge, the Barracuda had the winning record over Tucson this season. Now, I don't know. I never fact checked that, but that's what I heard. So I think Tucson's going to win. They're the favorite. But I'm not going to completely write this team off.
I know that the Sharks had called, and this is my own fault for not being informed. Has Bibo gone back down again, or is he still with the Sharks?
Wait, sorry, say that again.
Has Antoine Bibo gone back down, or is
he did? He played. So Antoine Bibo played last night, which was quite a shock for me. The call up was a shock to me, and I found rather suspicious, to be honest. Maybe going along the lines of what Sleepy Mofo said. I don't know. You can throw all the conspiracies out, theories out there. I don't know. But Bibo, based on what I listened to, because I wasn't able to watch the game, it sounded like Bibo, especially in the third period, stood on his head, was fantastic. He won the Man of the Year award. I don't know if the team announced an MVP yet, but to me, he is hands down the MVP of the team this year. So it's great having him in Barracuda teal for the playoffs.
It's like one of those things. I was kind of confused when they called him up because I thought, well, maybe something with Dell was hurting, or it was like the Sharks are like, well, they're not going to make the playoffs. You might as well just call them up now. And then they realized, oh wait, they still have a chance. Quick, send people back.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe that is what happened. Maybe it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was just they didn't realize the Barracuda were on this run. Man. It wouldn't be that far-fetched because this came out of nowhere.
Sure.
It really did.
So with other, the Sharks have more prospects that are now free to join the Barracuda. Do you think that we're going to see like a guy like Blickfield or Gregor drawn to the lineup, or do you think that they might stick more with a lineup that got them there?
I do think that they could add some reinforcements there on the fourth line. Colby McCauley, a player that you, Zach, and I loved last year, but really kind of just fell off the map the first half of the year. He's played much better here the last month, but I don't know if he's reliable enough to get this team passed around, Alex Shaneborn is just kind of out there. John Martin actually had a decent year overall, but still I don't know. I think there is definitely room for upgrades on the Barracuda lineup, especially the third and fourth lines. So
I mean, you
If
might as well stack it up because I mean, this Tucson team isn't exactly a bunch of slouches either.
Oh, no. I mean, they led the division. They led the division most of the year, and they've got all those Coyote draft picks
Right.
that you and Hockey Jerk and Drew just raved over, and myself. Um, Now I know that the Roadrunners were missing Laurent Dauphin, who besides having my favorite name to pronounce, he
It's
missed the
popped
last six
myself.
weeks of this. What's up?
I said I just spilled like pop all over myself on
That's
her. That's
wonderful.
amazing.
Laurent Dauphin missed like the last 6 weeks of the season for Tucson, and I know they were trying to hit him back for the playoffs, but I don't know if that's a thing. And I guess we'll
Right.
find out here next weekend. But that is a significant loss if they don't have him. Because earlier in the year, I saw him and he was the best Roadrunner that particular game, and I think he is one of the best players on their team.
I mean, it's definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing the run. I think I'm gonna open the piggy bank a little and make sure I can see some games for the Barracuda as long as it kind of coexists with the Sharks and my work schedule. But I mean, it's definitely I want to cheer them on. I want to see some. I want to see some of these guys. I mean, I was really impressed with what I saw of Chmelevski in the O this year. I got
he looks confident. From what I've
Yeah.
seen, he looks confident with the puck. I think he can gain some speed, but I heard he was like flying. Him and Shakovich were flying, but then the games that I saw them in, I thought they lacked a step. So we'll see, but definitely impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I mean, we have so much stuff, but I figured we should start on the Barracuda because I wrote the Barracuda off. We've been kind of slackish a little bit, not just not by choice. I think it's just obviously if you're going to talk about something, then you should probably know what the hell you're talking about. So the Barracuda have been
When did that ever stop us before?
Well, I like to pretend.
Okay.
And the Barracuda, the Barracuda this year, I haven't been able to watch as much as I would have liked. So obviously, our Barracuda coverage has been down this year, and I do apologize for that. But again, if we're going to sit down here and talk to you, I'd rather talk to you about something that I can actually tell you about rather than, well, I looked at this box score and this Chmelevski guy is pretty damn good. We don't like to do that. So I thought, start off the Barracuda because they proved me wrong for sure. I wrote them off and now they're in the playoffs. So go Barracuda. Let's switch gears here. The end of the season came and we had a coach fired. We had a coach retire. So Alain Vigneault's out in New York, fired after the season ended, and Ken Hitchcock retires. So he is no longer coaching the Dallas Stars. Where do you think Alain Vigneault ends up? I can't see this being it for coaches fired.
First off, Ian, can you believe, and anyone in the chat, I know probably the most talked about thing in the chat this whole season of shows that we've been doing was who's getting fired. Can any of you believe that no coaches were fired the entire season? Because I can't.
I can't, and I wonder why is that? Is it just that coaches are making too much money now, so it's like you can't fire the coach midseason because you're gonna have to pay them anyway? Like, I don't know what it is.
The only thing I can think of is that the teams that were at the bottom of the standings all seem to have just replaced their coach last year.
Sure.
And all the rest of the teams were thinking or did make the playoff. They were thinking they were going to make the playoffs or they did make the playoffs. So the Vigneault one is really interesting because I had brought up November or something. I said Lindy Ruff is sitting there, I don't think, to just be an assistant coach.
Yeah.
So I still think that might be what happens next season. But yeah, Vigneault, it's a tough spot for him. I definitely think he's a very solid coach, and it was just one of those things where it's time to move on.
Right.
And
I don't see, like, the only opening now is Dallas, and I don't see that as a fit.
Funny thing is, I do.
Do you?
But it's not. I don't think it would solve anything. Is the problem? Because Vigneault, I feel like he thrives on teams that are very offensively oriented, and we certainly know Dallas is because they haven't been able to play defense for 4 years.
Well,
But
hey, I thought Klingberg was going to be a Norris candidate this year, and maybe he ends up still being so, but I'm not sure.
yeah, I think Klingberg's one of those situations where it's like, just because the guy puts up stats doesn't make him a great defenseman. I
Fair
mean,
enough.
Brent Burns was probably had his worst year ever as a defenseman defensively, but his point production was astronomical after his earlier slump. So going back to what I was saying about Vigneault, I don't think he's the solution.
Yeah.
Because I think they need to completely flip that franchise around in where they're going. I think he'd just add on to, it'd be more of the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like they have pieces. They just need pieces to come around a little bit more. Like, I don't completely hate their defense. I think their defense needs a piece. Like, it needs a big piece. I think like Dallas, like when Hjalmarsson was up, I think Dallas is a team that should have been all over Hjalmarsson.
Well, isn't he a UFA after the year?
He might be.
If he is, that should be their number one priority.
But there's I still like Honka, I like Klingberg. There's another dude I like a lot too. What's his name? I can't remember, but he's great.
I was gonna say I'm drawing blanks on Dallas's D also.
I know. I'm just I'm losing my mind here. All right, so yeah, I mean, Hitchcock retiring doesn't really surprise me. Hitchcock, it didn't make a lot of sense. That whole him going to Dallas to begin with didn't make a whole lot of sense, to be completely honest. I think it's no surprise that a guy like Jason Spezza just had an awful year under Hitchcock, because I think we all saw that coming before the season started.
Yeah.
It didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, at least he had the common sense to just be like, okay, Radulov, you go do your thing, and if you happen to back check, great. If you don't, I'm over it.
Yeah. 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 Was it Esa Lindell or Stephen Johns?
Esa Lindell. Yeah, I like Esa Lindell too.
See, Stephen Johns, I actually thought had a really strong year for Dallas in spite of the rest of the core.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, Stephen Johns is good too. I like Esa Lindell. I don't know. There's something about him I like. Yeah.
Well, actually, I did not realize he was plus 19 on that Dallas team. So there you go. Lindell. Yeah, Ken Hitchcock, that was just a weird one because he had said he was going to retire after last season.
Right.
And then he got coaxed into one more year, and he was basically brought into a situation of, we have this team, we need to be more defensively responsible. Please help with that, but we're not going to give you the players that fit in your system to do it. Please just mold our players, our existing players. And it didn't work. So
no, it did. I feel like he kind of came. I mean, he was just short of a milestone too, and I think he got his milestone and maybe checked out a little bit.
Yeah.
We had some suspensions so far before we actually get into the playoff series themselves. Drew Doughty got a game for a hit to the head. What did you think of this? Because honestly, I was really surprised that was suspendable. Not that it was suspendable, because I don't think Drew Doughty intentionally went for the head there. I think it was just crap happened. I was really surprised he got suspended for it, though, just because I feel like in the playoffs, normally that's the kind of hit that they're like, well, it's borderline bad, but it's the playoffs, so we'll give you nothing.
Drew Doughty's suspension, it's a tough one, because I felt like the intent was there, but I don't think the intent was the head. I think
he was going to lay the body, because
I'm sick of this guy and I'm going to take him out. So to me, 5 in a game, I'm okay with that. The suspension, really surprised, especially considering Doughty's one of the stars in the league, and stars never get suspended. Especially in the playoffs. So I am kind of like, why now? If it's the start of something, then I'm for it. But I don't think it is. So I do kind of feel like what was really the point there? There are other things that happened that were worse. I actually thought Forsberg's hit on Duncan Siemens yesterday in the Nashville, Colorado game. Funny enough, Forsberg suspended earlier in the year for doing absolutely nothing. But that hit on Siemens, I actually think that's deserving of a 1-game suspension. That's not even going to get a phone call.
Yeah, so, it's weird. Like, especially because Carrier, Carrier was hitting everything that moved that.
Yeah, Carrier was all over Doughty in that.
Yeah, so I mean, Doughty, being like, hey, I can hit this guy, and then I think the way Carrier moved, and then Doughty got more head than I think he intended to get.
Yeah.
I can understand Doughty being pretty bitter about the suspension, but I mean, 1 game, I don't know. It wasn't like I give the Kings credit though, man, because that blue line is pretty weak without him, and they pretty much held their own that second game against the Knights, who I thought were just going to manhandle them.
Sorry, what was that?
I was saying that I give the Kings credit for how they played without.
Drew. Oh yeah.
I thought the Knights were going to manhandle them without Doughty.
To go to double overtime, I mean, I was a huge fan of the Ontario Reign, the defensive core last year, and some of those parts like Curtis McDermott, like Paul Ledoux, who I freaking love.
Yeah.
They are playing big minutes. Kevin Gravel, he's another one. Like, the Kings have the pieces to play admirably in the back end. It's just that none of those guys, they're all overshadowed by Doughty.
Well,
but
Doughty
they're also not
minutes.
Doughty.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he eats all those minutes, and he's, he's in that North conversation for a reason this year.
Actually, Ian, I wanted to say, how overshadowed is the rest of the D-core other than Muzzin, who isn't even playing?
Right.
I didn't even remember that the Kings acquired Dion Phaneuf at the trade deadline. Like, I'm watching game 1 and like, Dion Phaneuf is in the mix with a post whistle scrum. I'm like, what? Oh my God, that's right. Like,
Nazem Kadri got 3 games, which I thought he absolutely deserved.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised he didn't get more because just based on history, like Nazem Kadri is not exactly an altar boy when it comes to hits to the head. Has a little bit of a history with it. I thought he could get more, but 3 games, you do the playoff math, and every game's 2 games in the regular season. 6 games, I'm okay with that, I guess. But I thought, he absolutely deserved it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Tommy Wingels probably should have got a penalty for the elbow that he gave to Mitch Marner, but Kadri, like, that, it just doesn't excuse what Kadri did.
Nazem Kadri is one of those guys that he just bugs me. He's always bugged me. And I hope this, okay. I'm trying to load up the chat here, and I'm hoping the audio won't get messed up there. Okay. Nazem Kadri, absolutely 3 games. In fact, I expected him to only get two, but I did not realize he'd been suspended 3 times already. So I'm glad that they gave him the extra game. And he could have gotten more. There was a tremendously dirty hit. I was sitting at a restaurant before the Barracuda game watching that game with just, a random person. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe that, and
I think my reaction was like, same as Tuukka Rask. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? I mean, I was actually I walked in as that happened. So I was just immediately like, wow, hello, Nazem. There's no defending that at all.
No, I mean, like, absolutely should have been a penalty on Wingels, but that you just can't respond.
Yeah,
like that.
I had some Maple Leafs fans harassing me on Twitter at Kevin Lee 22, and I'm going like, what is your argument? Well, it's okay because he hit Marner. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So if I trip you and you spear me in the face, you shouldn't get suspended because I tripped you. Like that's essentially the argument.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Nazem, I hope your team gets eliminated while you're sitting upstairs, but maybe that's biased. I don't know.
Well, it's funny though, because like, and the other response that I've seen a lot of too is it's like, oh, like, because anytime like your team gets down, so it's like, oh, this damn playoff format. Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs would be doing any better against the Pittsburgh Penguins right now? Like,
Well,
I
no,
think they'd be screwed either way.
no. I mean, all year, all I've seen on TSN is Frederick Anderson keeping this team alive. Frederick Anderson keeping this. And last game, Frederick Anderson got pulled.
Right.
Uh-oh. Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, Toronto. If your
Uh-oh.
only saving grace is not saving you, yikes.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk playoffs. Obviously, we weren't able to get on before the game started, just schedules and whatnot. But we did make brackets. So
Yes.
we have our brackets to go back to, which obviously had to be submitted before the playoffs started as per the rules of the bracket challenge. So we have that to go back to. You can go and see our brackets. It's Teal Tinted Brackets in the NHL Bracket Challenge. So you can go and see. They were obviously locked in. This is not like Monday morning predictions for the Super Bowl that happened Sunday.
You can go to @Teal Tinted Pod on Twitter.
Yep.
And find the link to the brackets.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna start in Eastern. I'm gonna go from coast to coast. We'll start on the least coast, the Atlantic coast. We have the Lightning versus the Devils. The Tampa Bay Lightning are currently up 2-0. I think we both have the Devils in this series.
Yeah, the Devils
or the Lightning. Sorry,
I was like, yes. Wait,
no,
what?
No, Ian, you're dumb.
I have the Devils losing in 5. I think I put 5.
Yeah, I don't have it being a very long series either.
And I was actually talking with a friend last weekend about this. Like, this is not a knock on New Jersey. New Jersey's had a fantastic year when they should not have.
Yeah, house money.
They should be very proud with however this series ends up. They should be proud of their team.
Yeah,
because they had no bit. If you had said last summer that this team would have been a playoff team, I would have said in Binghamton. Like, yeah, they but Tampa Bay, a team that is steamrolled everyone most of the year.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I think I picked them in 5. I know I definitely picked them.
We both have them in 5. Okay. And I you know what? I hate calling sweeps because I'm just never that confident.
Well, I do too, because the sweep that I had got crushed tonight.
Oh no. All right. Yeah. So I mean, the reason, the Lightning, pretty much like you said, this team is just stacked. This team's primed for a long playoff run.
Yanni Gourde, former San Francisco Bull, Yanni Gourde had like 64 points.
That's ridiculous.
And it's not an exaggeration.
I know. I just, the Devils, they're just outmatched in this series. And I think come playoffs, like, again, big credit to what the Devils have done, but this is one game. This is a series where, and I don't think Corey Schneider's been amazing this series so far, and he would have to steal the series. Forget a game, he needs to steal the series for them to move on. Like, Taylor Hall cannot do this alone. You gotta give credit though. Nico Hischier's got, if it wasn't for Taylor Hall with all the points in the MVP talk, Nico Hischier had a really good rookie season too. That's kind of really flown under the radar, but it's just not enough.
Yeah. Kincaid actually has played the 2 games for the Devils, although I believe Kincaid got pulled the last one. But yeah, Schneider had kind of a rough year, and and I know there's another series we're going to talk about this where they had a surprise starting goalie. In fact, that game's going to overtime right now. But it is. Kincaid, I love the kid. I really do. I've been raving about him for years, but I've never raved about him as an NHL starter. And I just don't think it's there. And if I related a lot to Aaron Dell, where I love Aaron Dell, but I don't know if I would consider him a regular starting goalie, and Kincaid's in that same boat. If he's going to have to continue to start, New Jersey is in trouble. They're already in trouble playing Tampa, but he'd be even more in trouble.
They're in tough playing Tampa. Yeah. I mean, you go to the next series. I don't think there's really much to decompress there. It's a pretty straightforward series. 1 seed wild card. Happy to be there.
Yeah,
legit cup contender. I mean, it's now the series that I'm surprised with a little bit is the one we move on to next. We got obviously the Bruins versus the Leafs. I had the Bruins winning this series, but I had them doing like I thought this series would be a lot tighter than it's been.
Boston's been one of the biggest surprises to me, and I know, in the 2 seasons that I've been doing this show with you, or have we been doing it for 3? I don't know, but
it's been a while.
But no matter how many seasons that we've been doing this show, I've been saying I can't figure the Boston Bruins out. And this year they've been a machine. They really have been. And I still don't know why, but I'm just going to let them continue to do their thing. And with, as I said, if Frederik Andersen is the only thing keeping Toronto alive, oof, I picked Boston in 5.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny because I don't think the Leafs are this. I don't think the Leafs are as bad as they're looking right now.
I don't think so either. But it does seem like as this season has gone on, they've been losing more and more confidence. And that's never the trend you want going into the playoffs.
I mean, I'm really high on Boston. I think I have Boston going all the way to the Cup final in my bracket.
Ooh, okay.
I just think because there's so much. I mean, they keep finding, for all the slack that Boston gets for some of their drafting. I think DeBrusk has been. I like the DeBrusk pick. Obviously, maybe not over Matt Barzal, but I still like the pick. You got Charlie McAvoy who's come in and made it. Like they've had a lot of guys that have had a really quick turnaround to become, impact guys in their lineup. I think McAvoy, like that kid, is just insane. Like he's gonna be an all-star. It seems like every time, like Boston just seems to keep finding these franchise defensemen. They had Chara, they had Bork, Bobby Orr before that. Now you got Charlie McAvoy, who I think when it's all said and done is going to be, talked about in the same vein as a Ray Bork, a guy who's just, and I think Chara to an extent too, just a guy who just is just insane on their blue line, like forever.
Oh yeah. Talked about the Kings blue line and their youngsters, but Boston really has put a lot of draft picks into defensemen. You said McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk, Sporl, Jakob Sporl, who I heard actually is not panning out as much, and Jeremy Lauzon also kind of in that same boat. But Brandon Carlo, who I believe is out for the year, but he's another very good defenseman for them young defensemen. So they're kind of going the route of the St. Louis Blues a few years ago when they just decided to draft a ton of defensemen, find what sticks. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad philosophy. It may not be the sexiest philosophy, but it's not a bad philosophy. And
I think it's going to another team where you might see it start paying off is in Philadelphia because they have just a murderous gambit of defensive prospects.
Oh, nice word. Yes.
Just it's insane. Like
but when you've got guys like Zdeno Chara, who is he just signed for another year, but I mean at his age, you're gonna have to go year to year at this point. Adam McQuaid is not a young, a spring chicken anymore. I know there's another defenseman they have, but who's getting up there. I can't think of him at the moment, but yeah, I mean, good on them. They're building from within, and they're hitting on a lot of their picks.
Oh, it was reminding me that Philly needs a goaltender. They do have this prospect in their system, Carter Hart. I hear he's pretty good.
Yeah, they've actually got a lot of goalie prospects.
That Carter Hart guy's pretty good, though.
Yeah,
last I checked.
Just a bit. By the way, Washington Columbus is in overtime.
I know. But yeah, I think the Leafs are better than they've shown so far. But oh man, they're in tough. Like we'll see what happens. I mean, you're never out of a. The old adage goes, you're never out of a series until you lose at home. So we'll see if they can do what Minnesota did today and make a series out of it. I hope for my bracket's sake they make a series out of it.
Real quick, AO asked, what happened to Anthony Stolarz? I don't remember, but I think he had hip surgery.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's coming back this year. So
yeah, I mean,
but another young Philly goalie.
That's it. I have to imagine like they're gonna, I think they're not gonna rush them, but I think I think that Philly's gonna look at what Vancouver's done with Thatcher Demko and be really careful with his development.
Oh, they should.
Yeah, well, they should. And I don't know. Hextall to me seems like a pretty patient guy. Like he seems like a guy who kind of like Cheveldayoff in Winnipeg, where he just has a plan and nothing's going to change it.
Yeah,
like he's just he's got a plan and that's that. And he seems to have the ownership group that's going to let him see it through.
And I love that. It's hard to find that in this era of random people on social media blasting the GMs all the time. So, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do when there's so much media access, so much fan involvement right now. Sometimes the GM just has to close the door and do what he needs to do. He or she needs to do.
Right. So. Yeah. All right. So moving over to the Metro game that's currently in overtime right now, the Capitals versus the Blue Jackets. Obviously notable in this series is Philip Grubauer was the starting goalie, at least until the third period when Braden Holtby got the start. Braden Holtby's had a pretty atrocious season by his standards. I think he was like only a .907 this year for save percentage, where he's usually always north of 9.
Didn't he win the Vezina last year?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I haven't followed the Capitals as much as I followed other teams, but I didn't realize that Braden Holtby's had such a rough season. I don't know if it's injury related or just,
it might be just how many games he played over the last 2 years just wore him down a little bit. I did not realize it either. When I heard Grubauer was going to be starting game 1, I was like, why?
What?
And then I look it up and it's like,
oh, yeah.
Like the stat differential is heavily in favor of Grubauer. So, by the way, Vegas could have had Grubauer. That's funny.
That is funny. But yeah, I mean, I have Washington winning this series.
And I picked Columbus in 7.
There you go. See, I said I picked Washington because Washington, to me, the only way that they should ever leave the playoffs is at the hand of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I want Washington to make it out of the East. I have an Ovechkin jersey. In fact, if Ovechkin wins this, my beloved Vlasic jersey is coming down for Ovechkin for the rest of the show.
All right.
But between the Holtby's numbers, the Caps always finding a way to lose in the playoffs, and I don't think statistically Columbus had as good of a year as they did last year, but everything that I read about Columbus, because Columbus is a team I tried to watch, but this year I think I watched 1 game of theirs, so I had to do most of my intel just by reading. But the vibe I got was that Tortorella seemed happier with his team this year, like overall, just their overall consistency in their play and whatnot. Maybe the stats weren't as there, but it seemed like last year was obviously their build-up year, but this year they were able to capitalize on the growth of last year. So while maybe not all the wins came, their overall play was improved. Plus, some guy named Panarin getting added into the rosters.
Yeah, he's kind of good.
That's why I picked Columbus to upset. Like, I actually have more faith in them this year than I did last year, even though they were better statistically.
Yeah, you know what? I think what I got caught up in was obviously I didn't think the Capitals were going to be that good this year, and I think they surpassed my expectations. And I thought that going into the playoffs. I liked Columbus. Look, there's a lot going on in Columbus to like. And I don't really, when you look at, I know a lot of people will bring up like Bobrovsky's playoff stats. But if you look at who the poor guy has had to face in those playoff games where he's been atrocious, it's not really his fault.
Say it right.
Pardon?
Say it right. Bobrovsky.
There you go. So you know what? Like I didn't really buy in too much into that when I made my decision. I just think that the Capitals they just impressed me this season. They did better than I thought they were going to do, and I thought they were going to, go out to the Penguins because why not? That's how they're supposed to go out. So that's why I had them. It was a tight series, though. I think I'm going to see where I had them. I don't think I had it in.
You think? I mean, obviously, it hasn't.
Oh no, I had it in 5 games, man. I'm a dork.
You picked Washington in 5.
Washington in 5.
Oh, okay.
Oopsie.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm not rooting against Columbus, but I hope Washington can get past a couple of rounds here. They got to get past the Pens.
They deserve. Yeah. Yeah, that was silly. All right.
Speaking of the Pens.
Speaking of the Pens, playing the Flyers, I also had the Pens in 5 in this series because I think I don't like the Flyers goaltending. I don't maybe it just doesn't matter who's in net. Like they could maybe make like a Voltron of just old goalie souls and still probably lose 100-0.
Yeah, Hockey Jerk and I. By the way, we miss you, Hockey Jerk.
We do miss Hockey Jerk.
Hockey Jerk and I had a little friendly spat on Twitter, and it was friendly. There's no hatred there. No matter what he says. But he was saying, why would you start Brian Elliott? The guy has had nothing but playoff failure. And it's true, but who else are you going to put in? Peter Mrazek's numbers got worse. His play was worse for Philly than it was for Detroit this year.
Yeah.
And then after that, the aforementioned Anthony Stolarz out for the year. Alex Lyon, a goalie I like, but I'm not going to throw him into the playoffs right now. And all the rest of their prospects aren't even pros yet. So I think they're just kind of stuck with Brian Elliott. What's only bad picks, Kevin?
Chat.
What?
No, Chris in the chat, Hockey Jerk in 7.
Like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Philly's a team that just like they surprised me this year, but not enough that I can't get behind that goaltending tandem. And against the Penguins, forget it. Like the Penguins they're still so damn good. I mean, they've got Brassard as their third line center. Yeah, Kessel playing down the lineup. You have everything. Like just goddamn Pittsburgh, stop. Stop.
I picked Pittsburgh to 3-peat all year until this bracket, but I do have them still going to the finals. So I think
can definitely get there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
I can't remember if I picked Pittsburgh at 5 or 6 in this series. I do think Philly has enough there. Both of these teams had consistency problems all year.
Yeah,
I do have Pittsburgh going to the finals because it's Pittsburgh and consistency has never evaded them in the playoffs. So, or at least recently. So that's why
you have the Penguins in 6.
I have them in 6. Okay, so I gave Philly two chances to get in there, but
yeah, I mean, look at it's still good. I mean, the Flyers came back and they had the good game too, but man, the way Pittsburgh just it's just been such a other than the one game, like the 2 games that Pittsburgh has won, they've just been insane. It's not even fair.
Yeah, it's
so
and that's your marquee series according to NBC Sports Network.
Of course it is. They own the Flyers.
I truly believe that this Columbus Washington game, this series is going to end up being the best series in the first round. No, it's just there's no eyes on it because it's Washington and Columbus. But yeah, Pittsburgh Philly disappointing.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Philly's been disappointing. Okay, so moving on to the West, we hit the Central, and obviously we have Nashville versus Colorado. Nashville's up 2-0. I think I have the Preds in this one in 5 as well.
I do as well.
I love what the Avalanche has done this year. They how they turn things around. I mean, Mikko Rantanen's been insane. Again, another guy who doesn't get nearly enough credit because of what Nathan MacKinnon has done. And I know they're on the same line, but I mean, geez, like Kevin Kerr said, 80 points is 80 points.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of things going on in Colorado. I don't really. I believe Bernier's been playing though. And
yeah, because Varlamov's out for the year.
Right, because Varlamov's injured. I mean, that's a kick in the junk for sure. I would much rather have Varlamov in net, but I don't think it would matter either way.
Yeah. Just wrap up the Pittsburgh series real quick, because the Sleeping Mofo said, you'd think all of this hockey in the past 2 seasons would have caught up with the Pens by now, and yet they haven't missed a step. I think that's a great call.
Well, they keep finding bodies to either come in, or young bodies that can come up, and they always seem to keep finding these younger guys that can come up and play a role, and they keep finding, they keep trading for guys that haven't maybe played as much hockey.
Yeah, that's true. But going back to what you were saying, Ian, about the Colorado-Nashville series, I picked Nashville in 5 because I do think Colorado can steal a game. I mean, they made the playoffs for a reason. They're a team like New Jersey, where it's like, didn't really see it coming, but good for them, especially after trading Matt Duchene.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, everything came together for the Avalanche. Would have thought it would have been the other way around. So,
especially after like so many people were calling for Jared Bednar's head, and they stuck with them, and
poor Jared Bednar. I'm glad you brought that up, because Jared Bednar had less than a month to prepare last year as a head coach, after Patrick Waugh just decided to take his Stanley Cup rings and put them in his ears and walk out, or whatever the hell he's talking about. And so this year it didn't start off that great, but that Duchene versus McKinnon locker room thing was just nuclear for them. And now that Duchene's out of there, they've been really cohesive. But Nashville's just so damn good. They've got the President's Trophy to prove it. They're so deep. In all categories. Rob Iman said that Rinne has looked off. I haven't really noticed that so far. Yeah, Colorado has scored on their first shot in both games so far. But I don't know. I mean, Nashville's looked fine to me. I think Rinne's looked fine.
I think Rinne's fine too. I mean, he's really Pekka Rinne. You talk about a guy who turned it around. I mean, this is a guy who, I think a lot of Preds fans had kind of were done with. Especially after the series where the Sharks beat them. Like, they were just done. The way I don't know what he did to get his game back on track, but I mean, complete resurrection of his career almost.
Sorry, I got distracted by a comment in the chat from AO that I do want to get back to later, because it's really interesting. I think Rinne is the same goalie that there was that one year he was not very good, but I think everyone was really quick to write him off. What's up?
He's so big, right? Like, the big goalie, once the big goalie starts slowing down. I mean, look at Ben Bishop.
That's true.
Like, a guy who was just, 2 years ago was considered among the league's elite, and now he's almost Antti Niemi. Okay, maybe not that bad, but
no, but that is true. But I mean, speaking of Antti Niemi didn't have to be the world's best goalie to win a Stanley Cup when the club in front of him was that deep. And I think Nashville's just that deep. I mean, they've got all the scoring they need, and my boy Victor Arvidsson.
Right.
Their bottom 2 lines they're all Swiss Army knives.
Yeah.
And okay, if they have 3 injuries, they have 3 more bodies they can bring up from Milwaukee who can fill in just fine. Like Frederick Gaudreau, a guy who was a playoff hero for them last year, and still couldn't even make the roster consistently this year. Like, they have guys just buried in the minors waiting to be called up. So yeah, Nashville's a powerhouse.
I have them as my eventual cup winner this year.
I do as well, and I feel like it's a cop out because they were the President's Trophy winner. But
Hey,
you
that
know,
usually doesn't work in anyone's favor.
yeah, right. But
But I
I
think they're
firmly
that good.
believe in the Ric Flair mantra of to be the man. Woo! You gotta beat the man, and someone needs to knock off Nashville and Pittsburgh to convince me otherwise.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this is a series that it might be over quickly, but it still hasn't been terrible to watch either.
No, no, it's been good. Actually, all the Western games have been great hockey to watch.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So moving on, we got the Jets and the Wild. Winnipeg has a 2-1 series lead here. I'm curious I think I had this being a longer series. And
I didn't. I picked Winnipeg to sweep, and they got their asses kicked tonight.
they did. I have the Jets in 6. And yeah, you had the Jets in 4. You know what? I'm not too concerned with my pick still, though. Like, this could very easily. I thought that this might be a little bit of a tougher series, but I thought with the way the Jets, especially after the first 2 games, and I think they can get back to that in Game 4. But
it's over.
It's over. Who won?
Matt Calvert, I believe, scored for Columbus.
Oh man, my bracket's gonna get blown up by Columbus. Thanks a lot, Washington. Ovechkin jerk. No, but I think for Winnipeg, I just think there's too much firepower on that team. I think that this is a team that, in my opinion, is so underrated. And I cannot wait for them to go to the second round and face Nashville, because I think that series is just going to be insane.
Oh man, Winnipeg and Nashville is grade A plus hockey. Like both games they played in the regular season. I mean, my Twitter feed was just blowing up with the media pundits salivating over what great games they were.
Give me 7 games of that any day.
Yeah. And it was Matt Calvert, although I think it's onside. It's stupid onside. But Winnipeg, I don't want to see Nashville, Minnesota. I just think that'd be a boring series. Nashville, Winnipeg all the way. And Minnesota missing their top 2 defensemen. Winnipeg should be curb stomping them. That was not the word choice I wanted to use, but that's what I just said.
That's what you just said, and it's on the record. But no, I agree. Like, I was really surprised. I wasn't super surprised, because I think obviously Minnesota was going to push back. Like, there's a lot of veteran players on that team, so it wasn't like, they were just going to get completely pushed around. But I don't know if Minnesota can replicate what they did today again. Like, I don't think so. This is another series where I think, Dubnyk, who actually, given that first goal that he gave up, I thought played a really great game. But, and he didn't really have to steal the game today. But this is another series where I feel like Dubnyk would have to steal the series for the Wild to move on.
Oh, definitely.
The Jets are just too loaded. Although losing Tyler Myers, that's not good for Jets.
Yeah, what happened with Tyler Myers? I saw he got hurt and is out for the rest of the series, but I didn't know what happened.
He got punched in the knee.
What?
It looked like he got punched in the knee. The way he went down. I'd have to look at it again. Apparently the Kings have also scored a goal.
Yeah. All right. If this gets called back, this Columbus goal gets called back, to me, it's exactly why I feel that they need to figure out the offside rules. If the blue line is in, then it's a goal.
Oh.
Which the blue line is supposed to be in, and the puck's on the blue line before Calvert lifts his skate. But yet they're looking at it as something completely different. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Minnesota, you were talking about Dubnyk stealing the, he'd have to steal the series. Absolutely. And we do have a good goal. The game is over. The Zach Parise had a real nice month of March and, beginning to April. He's another guy rolling for the Wild. But just the injuries, I was never impressed with the depth. In fact, I think I picked Minnesota to not make the playoffs this year on my preseason prediction.
I feel like I was in the same boat. Just because like
Yeah,
Minnesota, they're just kind of. I feel like Minnesota and St. Louis are just both kind of there. Like they have some pieces that I like.
yeah,
They're just there.
yeah.
But I
I
was
know
way
you
too high
guys.
on
I know I was
Dallas.
the only one who was hot on St. Louis, and I looked really smart for the first 3 months of the year. But
I mean, I was way too high on Dallas. That was my
both of
undoing.
them, yeah. But both Minnesota and St. Louis just. I don't know. I don't see. Wait, did Marcus Foligno really punch Tyler Myers in the knee?
It looked like it.
Oh, I thought you were just joking because
No,
Myers is 6 foot nine
it
thousand.
looked like it. Kind of looked like the way he went, the way he kind of went into it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
like it.
that will stink for Winnipeg, but I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I like what Tyler Myers has done for them, but I think, and it would be a loss for them to lose Tyler Myers, but they've it's again, this Jets team just has guys that can just seem to keep stepping in and be okay. Maybe not on the blue line so much, but up front, like they just have guys that just keep coming in and being fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like I still like the Jets to win that series. I'm not even remotely concerned with what I saw today out of the you knew some of those guys, like I said, some of those guys were going to push back. Eric Stahl had been pretty criticized. You knew he was going to push back, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Moving to our beloved Pacific Division, we have the Kings and Knights currently in progress right now. I have the Knights winning this series, the Golden Knights that would be. And I think that I give LA a lot of credit, like I said earlier, for game 2 without Doughty eating all those minutes and having to really rely on their defense, to double overtime. It's a hell of a way to go down 2-0. But I think the Knights, like, I don't know. I've always kind of I became a believer in this team a long time ago, and I'm just when people were like, oh no, they're falling off now, everything's gonna die. Like, no, this is I don't know. I don't look at them like an expansion team.
No.
And I think once you take if you don't look at them like an expansion team, then none of this should surprise anyone because they've just basically rolled most of the year.
Yeah, it's not like one guy is carrying the Knights team.
Right.
Like, I mean, I could see them falling off if, say, William Karlsson had 41 goals, or he had 41. He had 41, but the rest of the team, there was not a single 20-goal scorer or something like that, or maybe there were only 20-goal scorer and a bunch of single-digit goal scorers. Like something like that, I could definitely see. But with Marchessault, Riley Smith, Perron, and James Neal, I mentioned, and William Karlsson, like they have too many guys having career years. They are even if maybe 2, maybe even 3 of those guys take a step back in the playoffs. You still have 3 more guys to step up or to hold pace, and then guys like Eric Haula stepping up, and again, Eric Haula with overtime winner. He did all that damage for Minnesota the past several years in playoff OT, and now here for Vegas on.
Well, it's like I always say, you can't, when you have 4 lines of secondary scoring, you never need any. But I think, it's, and I like what you said. And the other thing too, even though it kind of irks me when it's like, oh, 3-time Stanley Cup champion. I mean, yes, Marc-Andre Fleury has 3 Stanley Cup rings. I get it. He won one of them. But at the same time, though, I think there's this, and I've perpetuated this narrative too of Marc-Andre Fleury just kind of being this playoff joker. But honestly, last year, without Marc-Andre Fleury in the first 2 rounds, until Matt Murray got healthy, the Penguins aren't doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really surprised by Marc-Andre Fleury doing well. Is it going to be enough? Do I think Vegas is going to go all the way? No, but they might come out of the Pacific.
They very well might, and they certainly are going to have the fan support, even though like I'm not talking like local in the building, because it seems like it's always half visiting fans, but I mean like think about this. If your favorite team is, because of this incredible story the Vegas Golden Knights have been on all season, if your favorite team is out of the playoffs, who's the team you're going to want to see succeed the most? It's probably going to be Vegas because they're the new kid on the block, and it's an exciting story.
And they're playing LA. I mean, I can't think of I said they're playing LA, and I can't think of a situation where I would ever cheer for the LA Kings. In fact, the only time I'd even consider it is if they were playing the Ducks, but I would more likely cheer for a Meteor at that point. Like, I just, can both teams lose? Like, I could never cheer for the LA Kings. So I have no problem. And I know there's a lot of, there is a lot of hate, especially among our fan base, for that team. And
for the Kings or the Knights, because I'm thinking both. Yeah,
well, both. But yeah. The Knights, I feel like the Sharks really, Sharks fans really don't like the Knights. I don't have that hate for them yet. Maybe we get a playoff series and I will start to hate them.
My understanding is that the reason Sharks fans have had such a miserable time with the Vegas fans was that all the people out in Vegas, there's too many fans there who are out trash talking that don't know any better. Who just, they're all first year fans, or they're just going to a Golden Knights game for the night to check it out kind of thing. And so because their team is so good, they feel the need to relentlessly trash talk when they have no idea what they're actually talking about.
Well, they're getting ready for the Raiders to be there then. Is what you're telling me.
Actually, my cousin who lives in Las Vegas, I had asked her a while back, is there any less interest in the Knights because the Raiders are going there? She said not at all. The city loves that team. So that's at least a positive step. I had no problem with the Knights fans that came to San Jose, but it sounds like it's the Knights fans who are in Vegas that are the problem. So, yeah.
All right.
But anyway, if you do want to, after you're done watching this show, or if you want to do it simultaneously, the game is on NBC Sportsnet, and my friend Kelly says that the two teams are kind of beating the crap out of each other, so that's pretty cool.
I would expect nothing less and hope for just a bloody battered series between those two teams.
Yeah.
So let's get to the main event. Since we went from Vegas, so now we can have the main event. Obviously, our San Jose Sharks are playing the Anaheim Ducks. The Sharks are up 2-0. I have the Sharks winning the series. I don't think I have the Sharks going too much further, but I have the Sharks winning the series. And I just feel like the Ducks, the reason why I picked the Sharks over the Ducks, because I've picked, I try to be as objective as possible, although the only time my bracket's ever been awesome was the one year the Sharks didn't make the playoffs. I destroyed my bracket. Killed it. This, you know what, though, but the Ducks, and I was also, for those that don't know, on Teal Town USA, we had Eddie Van Jones on. He talked to us about the Ducks series, and I also went on his podcast, the Ducks and Pucks podcast, to talk about the series too. And the one thing with the Ducks right now is that defense. Obviously, with Cam Fowler out, they're very young on the back end, especially that third pair. And bringing Kevin BX in doesn't exactly scare me anymore.
My friend in Anaheim, he actually says him and his group have been calling BX a -3 instead of number 3. They've been calling him -3 all year because they absolutely cannot stand him. So as soon as that got announced, immediately I got a text from him like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
It's amazing. Look, I think I think the Sharks are the better team. I wasn't afraid of drawing either the Kings or the Ducks, and actually I'm kind of, although the only thing that really bugs me with this series is how much crap. Like, don't get me wrong, like the Kings would obviously be pounding the crap out of the Sharks too, but man, it just, this Ducks series, like, can you believe some of the crap that's just happening?
Yes, I can. And it's actually why I was hoping. I don't know why I would hope for a Sharks Kings series, but I was hoping it would be the case because I wanted Vegas and Anaheim to beat the crap out of each other. Because somehow I find LA less intimidating physically than Anaheim. LA's physical, but Anaheim's just dirty,
Just
just
cheap.
rotten, cheap, dirty. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna say that. I mean, like the Sharks have gotten the benefit of some bad officiating as well. Like, there's been a lot of calls missed, but there have been some calls that was just kind of head scratching a bit there too. And
Yep.
so it's man, the Sharks just need to hold their pace. Actually, we got a great question. I don't know if you saw it. We got a great question on Twitter. I hope you have it
I do.
relating to this.
Yeah.
Do you want to just go into that right now?
Yeah. So Tyler Sharks guy at Sharks guy 661 asked, "What do the Sharks need? What do the Sharks need to do? Well, how would the Sharks lose this series? And if they, if they move on, how do we feel?" So the way that the Sharks could lose this series, in my opinion, would be to just lose their cool with the Ducks.
Yeah.
And just start giving into the shenanigans and letting, the Ducks basically just getting into all this crap with the Ducks, getting in the fights with them. You look at Evander Kane, there's something not right with that dude's hand. Last thing we want right now is Evander Kane throwing punches at Corey Perry's head.
Yeah.
And breaking his, and further damaging his hand off like someone's helmet or something stupid like that. The Sharks need to just keep cashing in on the power play. I mean, if the Sharks power play goes cold, which it's been okay, it hasn't been perfect, but it hasn't been terrible either. As long as the Sharks can keep cashing in on the power play, then I let the Ducks do all this stupid stuff, and it won't be a long series.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's either the Sharks losing their cool or the Sharks just kind of letting the Ducks. I mean, the Sharks can't just let the Ducks do what they're doing. Like, the Sharks do have to push back, because I think that's a way they could lose the series, is just by letting the Ducks walk over them to the point where eventually they start winning because of that. But I do like it. Like, just be smart, be conscious of what's happening. And when I say conscious, I mean, like, be aware that the Ducks are doing themselves in. So let the Ducks continue to do themselves in. Don't give them the opportunity to figure out, like, oh, well, if we do it within the rules, like. So it's an excellent question, Tyler. It's one of my favorite questions anyone has asked this season. So
yeah, no, I absolutely. I think, the other thing is, obviously, you need to keep your head on a swivel, though, because they are going to take cheap shots. I mean, we saw that. The one hit there where whose helmet went flying off his head?
LeBanc and Carlson.
Kevin LeBanc, yes. I didn't think it was. I didn't like the hit. I thought it should have been, charging something. I didn't think it was suspendable, because it wasn't. It was cheap, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But yeah, I mean, then that's the thing, and that's where you have to be careful, because guys like Corey Perry, they know how to get in there, and they know how to get under your skin, and they know when the ref's looking, when the ref's not looking, and they know where the line is.
Yeah.
They know where, and they're going to see other hits and what's getting suspended and what's not. And he's going to go right to the line and try not to cross it. And you got to keep your head on a swivel. Don't put yourself in a vulnerable position where they can take advantage of you like that. But at the same time, you can't turn around and take your stick and try and cleave his head off with it. Like,
Ian, did you Corey Perry's he's gonna keep doing those things, so I have no time for that guy. Did you hear I don't know what broadcast you're watching for this series?
I've been watching the normal feed, the Sharks feed.
The Sharks, okay. Because I was gonna say, did you hear what Randy said after the game about Corey Perry? Because we were having a field day on Teal Town USA last night about that.
Oh, last night I don't even think I finished watching the game. Once it was, I think once Hurdle scored, I think I fell asleep not long after that. I had to work at 8. So
before you jump down Ian's throat, he's on the East Coast, so
yeah, I had to work at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Which means I have to be up at 7 a.m. If the game ends at 2, that's a rough deal for me.
Yeah, I don't quite remember the words that he said, but it was something like, after Corey Perry took that dumb penalty hitting Melker Karlsson for no reason with 3 minutes left. and then gets stopped by Martin Jones at the end of the game. Randy's like, Corey Perry stopped at the end of the game by Martin Jones and quite possibly cost his team the game with that stupid penalty or something along those lines. But that was the gist of it. It was like, wow, Randy, way to go.
That is absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like the Sharks. I mean, obviously the fear for me is that someone's going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is obviously my fear coming out of this series. I think the Sharks are going to come out of this series just fine. But what shape are they going to be when they come out of the series? That's my concern. Joe Thornton's been taking the pregame skates but hasn't drawn in yet. Is that just mind games, you think, or do you think he's closer than maybe some of us think he is?
I don't think he's closer than we think he is. I just think that DeBoer is going to put him in there anyway when he sees fit, which I think is a terrible play, but I think that's something he'll do. I really do think it's a game time decision, but a lot of it's mind games. Or game 2, I definitely think was mind games.
Yeah.
Game 1, I'm not so sure. But after the Sharks completely dominated game 1, I think the game 2 is just kind of a mind game. Game 3, so be it. If the Sharks lose game 3, I will be first pissed because I'm going to game 3 tomorrow. But I will be very concerned about Thornton warming up in game 4 because I think DeBoer might deploy him then. And I think it's the wrong move. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm concerned there too. I think, there's been a couple of things. Like, I don't think Paul Martin's been terrible, but I'm kind of surprised that Joakim Ryan's on the outside looking in.
I think I agree, but I do think something's going on with Joakim Ryan. Like I think they're being very quiet about it. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either. I don't know if it's, but it's hard because it's just because Peter DeBoer and his love for veteran players that's been well documented.
Right.
So I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me. But it's not like I don't think Paul Martin's been bad enough where I feel like it's, oh my God, we need to fix this. I think when I first heard it, I was really, really upset. But watching the game so far, I just, it hasn't been to the point where I'm like, where the hell is Joakim Ryan? Like, how is this even allowed to be a thing? I guess the other thing too that I worry about with when you said Joe Thornton, and I said this on the Ducks and Pucks podcast, is the thing that worries me about Joe Thornton coming back is that whenever a big player comes back, it always seems like the team, it doesn't matter what team it is. Like, I'm not saying this is a specific to the Sharks problem. It always feels like the team kind of relaxes a little bit. And, it's like, oh, our big gun's back. I don't have to play as hard. I think we saw it when, we've seen it in Tampa when Stamkos came back after missing a bunch of time. In the playoffs, and we saw them kind of just be kind of lackluster. And I really worry about that with the Sharks, where Joe Thornton's going to come back and everyone might take their foot off the accelerator a little bit because Jumbo's back and everything will be okay.
I would like to think that Pavelski has a tighter rein as the captain of this team than Thornton did. To where that won't happen. And the reason I'm going in that direction is because I had a conversation with Mark Purdy several years ago.
Okay.
The year that Martin Havlat missed most of the year. I know he was injured, but there was that 1 year where he missed almost all of the season. And Mark Purdy had told me that with his conversation with Joe Thornton was of the belief everything will be fine when Martin Havlat comes back. And it was like month after month after month. Oh, well, the Sharks are doing okay, but Jumbo keeps saying everything's going to be fine when Havlat comes back. And so to what you were saying, Ian, about the taking a mental break because your star's back.
Right.
I hope it doesn't happen because I hope that Thornton's still a leader. We all know that. And he's got a huge influence on the locker room, but I'm hoping that viewpoint is just gone from the locker room now that Thornton's not captain.
I hope so. I mean, but it's not even like I said, it's not even like I don't think it's just a knock mentally against the Sharks. I just feel like this is a thing that happens around the league.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to say like the Sharks specifically are mentally weak. We've seen this happen to teams that were primed for a run and then they get a star gets injured and the star comes back and things don't go according to plan. I mean,
You,
it's not always that way.
yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You kind of learn to move on.
yeah,
You learn to acclimate to what you've got. The Barracuda making the playoffs. They learn to acclimate with Shakovic and Chmelevski, and they've been rolling. And you can't take away what those two guys do, because you find that mix, you want to stick with that mix. Like,
absolutely.
If a player does get hurt, that could throw off the rhythm for a lot of different parts
Well,
on the
that's what
team.
I'm
So
curious. Like, where do they put him if he comes back? Is he
Thornton, I think Thornton should be on the fourth line. If he does come back, it should be a fourth line, because I don't want to mess with the top three lines right now.
But that's not gonna happen. I mean, he's gonna
I
come
know
back. He's gonna probably center Pavelski and Kane or something ridiculous, and then everything else is gonna get all thrown out. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want Joe Thornton back. I just want to make sure he's ready, and I just want the team to be ready. But I
picked the Ducks in 7. But
the reason Ducks in 7. Oh my God,
I'm a bad fan, right?
You are a terrible fan.
But the reason that I did was because I expected the Ducks to be the Ducks. Like, I expected them to just go out and play trash hockey,
right,
and get in the Sharks' heads and eventually prevail by being idiots. And so far, it hasn't happened. So just hold the course, Sharks. I'm very happy with how the Sharks have played, and I hope they'll hold the course and prove me wrong, because I've been saying so far in the playoffs I'm 7-4-8, and I have no problem with my one bracket buster being that Sharks Ducks series. No
absolutely. And just the other end of Tyler's question there, and then we'll probably wrap this up. If the Sharks do proceed, because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say the Sharks. Like, look at we're Sharks fans. We know that playoff series sometimes can go very south very quickly. So I am certainly not, doing a victory dance in the end zone yet after only 2 games. But should they go forward, how do you feel about their chances after that? Like, I don't want none of Vegas. Like, I really don't think. I think we've seen it all year. I don't think the Sharks are a good match for Vegas. I think, I have in my bracket, I have the Sharks losing to Vegas in the second round. I don't want any of Vegas.
I don't even remember because I had Vegas and the Ducks
Mm-hmm.
in round 2. By the way, I did pick Vegas over LA. I forgot to mention that earlier. I don't even remember who I had prevailing out of that series. If it was Sharks and Vegas,
Knights going to the conference finals.
Okay, so I do have the Knights over the Ducks. So yeah, I would have the Knights over the Sharks as well. I thought the Sharks played very well the first 3 times they played each other. I missed the 4th game that the Sharks lost, so I don't even know how that game played out. But I think that Vegas, like you said, they've got 4 second lines, and I've been on record saying that Evander Kane is just not enough to help push this team far in the playoffs. So far, I've been wrong. Evander Kane has been wonderful,
amazing,
and he's been amazing, like you said, and everything else has fallen into place. And I didn't expect that at all. So if the Sharks end up going to the conference finals, woohoo! I didn't see it coming.
I mean, I would not be upset to see the Sharks go to the final. I mean, if somehow LA can come back and beat the Knights, I mean, I would like the Sharks' chances of conference finals hockey a lot better at that point. I can't.
If the Sharks played the Kings, I do think the Sharks will beat the Kings. I absolutely, if that had been the round 1 matchup, would have had Sharks in 6. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
happens. I mean, again, anytime the Sharks are involved and I pick against them, I always hope to be wrong. But I can't just be a homer and shark up my bracket.
Yeah.
I can't do it. That's just for We're the smart show, damn it. No, we're not.
I was gonna say we'll leave it to Puck Guy to do that because I think Puck Guy does that. But and that's not a dig at Puck Guy. I mean, I think he legitimately picks the Sharks every year because he's a good Sharks fan, and clearly I am not. So
I'm just the guy who wants to. I'd rather be right than a good fan.
Yeah, I want to be the guy who had the 100% bracket and not the 99% bracket. Like if you, no, Puck Guy, it was not meant to be spiteful. I swear.
We're both fired. It's over.
Yeah, I'm saying you're a great Sharks fan. You're the best Sharks fan. That's why you pick them every year, and I have no problem with it.
I have no problem with it either. It's just not the way I roll. But no, honestly, guys, this was really fun. If you like what you saw, then you should. Okay, enough, Sleepy, enough.
I do have one more rant to go, but
rant away
before we wrap up. But I don't know when you want to throw it out there.
Go ahead, rant away.
Okay. All right, guys. I talked earlier about Sharks fans in Vegas, for example, or Vegas fans in Sharkland. Apparently, there was an incident last evening in Anaheim at the Honda Center involving a specific group of Sharks fans harassing the Ducks fans nonstop before the game, during the game, after the game, causing a big scene. Staff had to get involved because they were just acting so belligerent. Allegedly, this group is being banned from Honda Center. I'm not sure how much truth there is into that. I did ask a source that I have in Anaheim who said this was all true. And apparently they moved their after party to my hot spot across the street that I have befriended many people over there and made complete jokes of themselves. That's not appreciated, for one. And I'm going to tie this in with a situation that happened with the Utica Comets earlier this week, where their so-called fan club, and this is going to get dark, folks. I'm going to let you know right now.
Man, all right.
Their so-called fan club was trashing on the Syracuse Crunch fans, who apparently came out to Utica for a game at the end of the AHL season, to which their fan club made a public statement saying, "I wish what happened to the Humboldt Broncos would happen to the Syracuse Crunch." That is not acceptable behavior, guys. Like, I'm saying this just in general. Like, cheer for your team, but be respectful whether you're on the road or whether the road fans are in your building. Just be respectful. You don't have to like the opposing fans. You can give them, quick little jabs and whatnot, but don't just straight up trash them or make death threats or just be complete idiots and embarrass your own fan base like that. That's not cool. So Sharks fans, hockey fans, we need to be better than that. That's outrageous. And when I hear about situations like with Utica and what the Sharks group did in Anaheim last night, get over yourselves. It's hockey. It's fun. Keep it fun.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be silly like that. Look at Philadelphia is already a thing. We don't need Philadelphia to be everywhere else. Leave Philly in Philly. That's all I can say.
Good call.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's at the end of the game, man. It's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. And it's just not. Is it worth it? I don't know. I mean, I can get in a little trash talky with the best of it, but I don't know, man. Like, these people they're just gonna go home and back to their jobs and do the same crap that you do every day. I don't know. It's just there's a line, and again, leave Philly in Philly. We can't fix Philly. We can fix us though. If you like what you heard, then you should subscribe to the channel. If you like to take podcasts on your phone or MP3 player, for those that still have like iPods or whatever and don't just use their phone for everything, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. I mean, if there's a place that has podcasts, you can find us there. And we encourage you to not only subscribe, but make sure if you know other Sharks fans are looking for Sharks podcasts. And we have actually had people on Facebook look at our podcast, and people have mentioned our podcast. And that's very, we're always obviously very thankful when that happens. So definitely be sure, if you know someone who likes hockey podcasts, to have them give us a listen, and maybe we'll find more friends, and they'll have 2 friends, and they'll have 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on.
AO's question, almost forgot. Thank you, AO. I believe the question was who's a worse coach, Patrick Roy or Wayne Gretzky? Right. I go with Wayne Gretzky. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's, look at Patrick Roy obviously, did pretty well coaching in junior, whereas Wayne Gretzky doesn't have that thing. I think what the problem with players, and I've said this before on the podcast, is that for a guy like Wayne Gretzky, who just naturally is so gifted in the playing of the game, I feel like it's hard for him to dumb it down and explain what he wants the player to do to the player, because it comes so naturally to him. And I think this is why a lot of star players have a hard time when they try to get into coaching. Like the biggest star players, like it's no surprise that a lot of the guys that get into coaching are who are they? They're bottom line plugs.
I was gonna say Bob Bugner and Sheldon Keefe and
right.
Sheldon Kennedy and
right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys that get into coaching, it's no surprise, they're bottom 6 guys, they're defensemen. They're not it's very rare that you see a real superstar player get behind the bench and succeed at it. And I think that's why. I think it's because it comes naturally to them. So they can't, they can't explain to Joe Blow, the 4th line player, whose obviously limitations are the reason why he's on the 4th line, and I don't think they can teach it as well as they know it.
Yeah. Players like the ones I mentioned, Jay Leach is another one, for example. Those guys have to focus on the details so much in their professional games that they're able to recognize what they were focused on and relate it to their coaching. Whereas a guy like Gretzky, like you said, naturally gifted, he just goes out and does those things, or did those things,
right,
as part of his daily hockey regimen. Didn't have to think about it, just went out and naturally did it. And so
I mean,
I was also going to say Patrick Roy at least had a successful junior coaching career, so there was that.
Yep. And I think that I think it's hard now, because you have to coach guys differently. I think you can coach kids a little bit differently, not to the extent that I think they were coached once upon a time, but I still think you can get away with a little more when you're coaching kids that are just, trying to make it and get out of there, rather than, when you get to the NHL and guys are locked into long-term contracts. I mean, it's easy to change a coach. It's harder to change personnel, but it's easier to do it in junior when your guys are there for 2 to 4 years.
Yep. All right, I'm done undercutting your wrap up.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, again, please subscribe, please tell friends, and all that stuff. We will be back. We never finish, really. I don't think we finish this year, do we? No, we never finish. We never quit. We'll be here through the playoffs. We'll definitely be around at the draft and free agency, and we'll be here in the summer saying, "Hey, who's this college free agent going to sign with this year?" All that stuff. I can't
believe the Sharks didn't sign any college free agents this year, but I guess we'll wait and see.
We'll wait. August 15th is coming. We're going to get all the guys. Wait. Yeah. All of them. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.